Previously on Battle Chasers. The legendary hero Aramis has been missing for some time now, but his legacy fights on. When Sebastius Nafar unleashed the necromantic might of a borrower on Capital City, he drew out Garrison and Gully. This gave him a chance to steal Aramis's gauntlets, which he viewed as his rightful property as Aramis's only son. Is Nafar the son of Aramis and the brother of Gully? Will Garrison track down Red Monika, as he's been ordered to? Did she even survive her encounter with the war golem-wielding August? Find out on Comic Book Breakdown episode 11.6, Battle's End.
In the capital lands, fate has brought together 5 unlikely allies. From Vandalheim to Capital City, from the Cyrene Valley to the Crescent Isle, they will become known as the Battle Chasers, dun 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 dun, Battle Chasers, dun 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 dun. They stand against evil with all of their might. Wherever they go, well, you know there's a fight. They're gonna win the battle by the end of the night. So who the hell are they, you wanna know, right? Well, they're the Battle Chasers, dun 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 dun. There is Garrison. I don't want to use this sword, but I will if you force me. And we've got Calibretto.
I was made for war, but I will fight for peace.
And there's Gully. I'm gonna find my father, and I'll slug anyone who tries to stop me. And Knolan. It takes years to master magic, and I've spent them, you punk. And we've got Red Monika. Don't worry, boys. I'm here to save you. They stand against evil with all of their might. Wherever they go, well, you know there's a fight. They're gonna win the battle by the end of the night. So who the hell are they, you wanna know, right? They're the Battle Chasers, dun 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 dun. Battle Chasers, dun 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 dun. They're the Battle Chasers. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our final breakdown on Battle Chasers. That's right, we finished issue 9 and then we are out of here. But I have some unfinished business from issue 8 that kind of leads into issue 9, so I'm going to talk about that first. Let's begin with the publication month. Issue 8 was released in May of 2001. So, after a 16-month wait for issue 7, we have nearly 1/3 of the time going into issue 8. And yeah, that is better, but it's still late. Similarly, issue 9 was released in September of 2001, so only 4 months of waiting here. So while we definitely aren't on a regular publication schedule at this point, the creative team is doing a much better job producing issues. Issue 9 is also 26 pages of Joe Mad artwork, which is 4 more than a standard comic, and there's a flip book bonus feature by Adam Warren at the end, so this comic is jam-packed with goodies. Plus, all of the ads are shoved to the space in between those 2 stories, so there's nothing to interrupt our narrative. It's very nice. Secondly, let's talk about the cover to issue 8. It's dominated by one of Aramis's gauntlets, resting on the ground, surrounded by debris, and resting in a pool of blood. A small, thin hand, wrapped in cloth, reaches tentatively towards the gauntlet, but it pauses just short of touching it. Artistically, this is a pleasing image. Joe Mad's line work is clean, well-defined, and, interestingly, not inked. Most comics are drawn in pencil, which was then finished by an inker because A, inks last longer, and B, it contrasts better against white paper, so the artwork appears more vibrant even in black and white. But the 2000s saw a new artistic technique sweep the comic book market, that of digitally coloring directly over the pencils. This could save time, as it essentially removes the need of an inker, but it also means that the original pencils need to be 100% finished before the coloring happens. Plus, skipping the inking stage means that we don't have the hard, defined edges of black ink either. All of our contrast must come from the coloring and the composition of the image. Where issue 7 was a single light shining from the jewel on the gauntlet, a light that was being consumed by the darkness of the borrower, representing Nefar's attack on Gully. Here we have the gauntlet hidden in shadow and spotted with blood, surrounded by destruction. The revelations about Artemis taint his gloves, his physical, literal legacy, and they have changed from a beacon of hope to something more foreboding now. The bright yet shadowed colors give the image a very somber mood, and those colors work. Then we have the small hand reaching for the gauntlet. Gully's hand. We can tell that it's Gully because the fingers are thin and free of creasing around the knuckles, indicating that it's a younger character. They are also topped by rounded nails, which is a common trait for women in comic books. You either have pointed nails or nicely rounded ones, where guys generally have a much more blunt, square nail shape. The wrapping along the wrist is also a piece of clothing that Gully is shown wearing in issue 7. It's interesting to note that this is the only cover featuring Gully and the gauntlets, and yet she isn't wearing it. We are being shown that someone used the gauntlets, has caused some destruction, was wounded or killed, and now Gully has to take up those gloves again, but she might not want to. These are no longer glorious weapons, a reminder of how strong and righteous Aramis was. They are tools, they are weapons, and Aramis may have misused them. Now that Gully knows that, it is bound to affect her feelings towards them. Issue 9's cover, then, uses both of the artistic techniques. Calibretto, Gully, and Knolan are inked in the foreground as they charge forward, just to the right of the main camera. Garrison and Monika stare into each other's eyes in the background, like this is a romance novel, uninked but colored blue. The trio's image is sharp and crisp, full of energy and action, while the duo are more of a background concern. I think that this is pretty fitting, as Gully's story has really dominated the narrative of Battle Chasers. It was through her that Knolan and Calibretto got involved, and now they're going to continue to move forward together. Garrison and Monika, however, have always been kind of off doing their own thing. Garrison's heart in the clouds, and Monika literally being in the sky. Hold. Awesome cover here. I just love this one. This is a cover that you buy. This is clean and exciting and just beautifully colored. Let's take a look inside. There is no narration as issue 9 opens. We are in the woods, it seems, in a clearing, where a young man and a young woman are meeting. The man is a soldier of some kind, wearing a uniform similar to that of Garrison's. The man presents the woman with a silver locket that has a heart on it. He attaches it behind her neck, and she smiles. Then they lay down together for some afternoon delight. Not long after, a baby boy is born. This is where we learn that the boy's father is called Aramis, and he has been called away to war. The mother tells him that if he leaves, then she will not wait for him. Aramis leaves. The boy continues to grow. Despite not having his father around, Sebastius grows up as a fun, justice-seeking child. While others might not believe who his father is, his mother does, and the stories that she tells him about Aramis fuel his imagination. He play fights with a dog-like creature, and he tries to defend a nest of birds from some cruel kids. But Sebastius's physical strength and the strength of his convictions don't quite measure up. Eager to be accepted by what is surely a loving, if dedicated to his job father, Sebastius followed rumors about the man. This led the boy to another home, with another woman, and another child. Sebastius witnesses Aramis returning to this home, kissing the woman on the forehead, and he hates them for it. Years later, screams in the night wake Sebastius from bed. He's still young, perhaps 8 or 9 years old here, and discovers that his house is on fire, and that his mother is dead. A man in large armor wielding a mace stands over her. He turns toward the boy, sneering. "Another one, eh?" Sebastius runs, passing the bodies that are hung from trees or shot with arrows, and buildings that are smashed in or on fire. The man pursues, but slowly. He knows that there is no escape. The boy is cut off by a massive armored figure on horseback. The armor is like something out of Warhammer 40k. It is just so huge and bulky. It's like this dude is wearing Calibretto. Beneath a horned helm, the figure stares at Sebastius. And Sebastius smiles. Aramis. His father has come to save him. The mace man finally catches up, though, and he grabs Sebastius. He looks to Aramis for orders. What should he do with this one? Sebastius shouts to let him go, pleading with his father to save him. The man slaps Sebastius, promising to rip his tongue out, when Aramis tells him to stop. He dismounts and takes his helm off, revealing a broad, handsome face. A well-trimmed beard and mustache line his jaw. His hair is clean and neat and fiery red. He looks heroic, if cold. Aramis approaches Sebastius, recognizing the locket around his neck. He reaches out, cradling it in one massive hand. He orders the other man to not harm the boy. Then he snaps the chain in one pull and turns away. The boy will make a good slave. Young Sebastius screams as he's dragged away, and we move to the present. Older, handleless Sebastius sits in a prison cell, a ball and chain attached to his ankle, with his forearms wrapped in bandages. Gully, who stands outside the cell, calls him a liar. Her father would never abandon his child. Sebastius smiles weakly. Oh, really, sister? Then tell me, where is your father? She can't answer that. He asks if she ever knew her mother, and when Gully can't answer that either, he says that they're both victims of Aramis's lies. It just hasn't cost Gully nearly as much. Here he holds up his forearms. Gully says nothing. Sebastius smiles cruelly now. Does she know what they did to children in slave camps? This finally breaks the girl, who runs from the prison, shouting at him to stop lying. Gully doesn't get far before she stops, pulling out a silver locket from around her neck that is decorated with a heart. She sits down, crying, and interestingly, she does not wear her father's gauntlets. It's hard to comment on the veracity of Sebastius' story, because we, as the audience, don't really know Aramis at all. We only know what other characters have told us, and, for the most part, we have only been told good things about him, like Gully. Did he view his relationship with Sebastius' mother as a mistake? As a fling that just went too far? Was he just ambitious, hungry for fame and power? Why did he attack the village that Sebastius lived in? Was that part of a campaign, or was it a more calculated move to erase a piece of his past that he no longer cared for? Maybe he was possessed or driven by some magical force, as Garrison's sword seems to do for him. Do the gloves have some kind of influence on their wielder? Aramis doesn't have the gloves on until Sebastius witnesses him visiting Gully's mother, so he gained them in between the birth of Sebastius and that scene. Unfortunately, the world of Battle Chasers has so little grounding or depth or set of rules that I can't even really guess. I like the story, though. It's clearly built to make us sympathize with Sebastius. This is why his mother is shown as a saint. He tries to fight bullies, and we aren't shown any more context to Aramis's attack. All we know is what Sebastius experienced. So now we have a better understanding of what drove him to his actions in the comic. He was a cute kid. I'm sorry that things didn't work out better for him. Or his mother. Elsewhere, King Veneer fantasizes about donning Aramis's gloves, which are being kept in a glass display case in the palace. He dreams of himself hulking out, planning on forcing the world to submit to his rule. He is interrupted by Maestro, though, who is reporting that Garrison did not heed Veneer's summons. Did he explain to Garrison, Veneer asks, that he would be reinstated, serving as Veneer's right hand? And that he would be given the gauntlets to wield? Surely no man could turn down such an offer. Maestro did tell him, and Garrison did refuse it. Veneer pauses now, thinking. then Garrison will probably not aid in the search for Red Monika. He orders Maestro to gather his best men. They need to teach their lone wolf a lesson. We then have a page of Garrison traveling at night, and he encounters a lone wolf. They lock eyes, and while it's not shown, I like to imagine that Garrison gave it a "sup" head nod. The two go their separate ways, Sharif and Mad beating us over the head with this metaphor. Veneer's offer intrigues me. We have clearly been shown his ambitions here, a desire to rule as much as possible. But then he offers Aramis's gauntlets to Garrison, who has an outright stated dislike of Veneer and has said no to him at every possible turn. Does Veneer just like the challenge of breaking the will of a man like Garrison? I mean, I'm glad that he respects Garrison's skills, but that would be a relationship of nothing but fighting. Why wouldn't he give the gauntlets to Maestro, who is loyal and who is willing to follow orders? I gotta say, though, Joe Mad draws a majestic-ass wolf. Elsewhere, we catch up with Knolan, who is trying to teleport back to Capital City. He falls through the magical portal, cursing the trouble that his spells have been giving him. It's almost like magic itself is getting weaker. Knolan dusts himself off and looks around, discovering a sign that reads, "Snaggletooth lives here." Hot, moist, oppressive breath washes over Nolan's back. He turns, looking into the grinning maw of a massive, blue-skinned, fat, jagged-toothed creature drumming its fingers on a skull. "Ah, you must be Snaggletooth." The monster roars, coating Knolan in spit, and then it slams its fist where he used to be. The wizard only has enough mana for one more portal, so he better get it right. The story then jumps to Gully, who is sitting next to a body of water just outside of Capital City. She is skipping rocks, but stops to examine her locket. Her father gave it to her when she turned 5. He said that it was her mother's. But was that true? Now she doesn't know. A large boulder crashes into the water, interrupting her thoughts. Gully turns to find Calibretto, fully repaired, standing with another large rock in its hand. It asks Gully to teach it the magic of skipping rocks. But Gully refuses, saying that it's not magic, and what is he doing here anyway? Calibretto is confused by her anger. She doesn't have to show it the magic if that's what angered her. "It's not," Gully replies. "She just wanted to be alone." "Why?" Calibretto asks. "Does she like to be alone?" "No." "Well, yes." Sometimes people just want to be alone, to keep things to themselves," Gully replies. "Ah," Calibretto says, "like secrets." Gully's face hardens. "Yeah, like secrets." Knolan interrupts this, teleporting in. He grabs Gully and runs as Snaggletooth's meaty arm reaches through the portal, and it punches Calibretto. The war golem gets its wish as it skips across the body of water. Knolan turns, warning Snaggletooth to pull its arm back. Then he closes the portal and severs the limb. The story elements with Knolan are clearly built as comedic relief. So much of this issue is dark, tense, and foreboding. We need something lighter, I'll admit it, but this is almost too light. I was getting tonal whiplash here. There's a small joke during the scene with Veneer and Maestro that works pretty well. It feels in character for the pair, but it doesn't derail their narrative track. But Nolan's journey and arrival here literally derail the narrative, interrupting Gully's scene and threatening to focus us on the impending news of August's return. Plus, going from Knolan and Snaggletooth, aka a funny scene, to Gully's moment, aka a serious scene, and then back to Knolan, aka another funny scene, in 4 pages is too fast. Rather than feeling like one cohesive moment, this feels like 2 different moments that are being spliced together. So the Knolan stuff is meant to relax us. What, then, is the Gully stuff meant to do? As usual, I like Gully herself in this. Sebastius' life's story raises some important and scary questions for her, and she isn't sure how to process them. That's fine. That's good. Anyone would have problems with all of the things that she just learned, much less a 10-year-old girl. Her initial anger at Calibretto's arrival feels real, if undeserved, and even she knows that it meant well. She patiently answers each of its questions, despite being upset because for all of her anger, she does care. That said, Calibretto feels kinda naive here. Previous scenes with Gully and Calibretto typically have Gully feeling inexperienced or uneducated, whereas Calibretto has years of life experience. But here, those roles are reversed, and that doesn't sit well with me. Gully should be upset, that's fine, but Calibretto's role should be helping her to process those feelings, not annoying her in general. I kind of feel like the point of this scene is to get Gully to a place where she understands her father a bit more. When Calibretto asks her if she keeps secrets, and when she says yes, sometimes people do, she looks so sure of herself, as if she's come to a hard truth. She's been wrestling with her father keeping secrets from her, like she wanted to keep this moment a secret from Calibretto. But that feels like such a mature realization to come to, and with so little character thought or action put into it. I won't say that it's out of character for Gully, nor does it finish what I'm sure will be a complicated relationship with her father, but it feels a bit weird. Garrison, who was traveling at night earlier, but then it was day during the Gully scene, but now it's night again. WTF is happening with time here? Anyways, Garrison has returned to the Cyrene Valley and his unfinished home. He's changed from his martial paladin uniform to an all-black ensemble and visits his wife's grave. Then he returns home. But all is not well, as the door is ajar, and blood spots the ground. Alerted now, Garrison is on his guard, just enough to dodge a strike from, and then trade some blows with, Akimon. Garrison recognizes him immediately as one of Monika's goons. He's the one who can't talk, right? Akimon slides behind Garrison, and then he presses his fingertips against Garrison's face. Images burst into the warrior's mind. He sees August's attack with the war golems, Monika fighting back, and Bengus being wounded, if not outright killed. He sees Akimon escape with Monika, and Garrison demands to know where she is now. She leans against the doorframe, her clothes torn and her voice unsure. Monika barely takes a step inside the building before she collapses. Garrison catches her, then asks Akimon to help get her inside. Outside, though, at the edge of the woods surrounding his home, is Maestro, and 3 intimidating figures. The martial paladins have found their prey and surrounded them. The final page of the issue has the lone wolf from earlier howl at the moon, itself being surrounded by 4 other wolves. They close in, snarling and biting, and the night turns silent. And that is the end of issue 9. There really isn't a lot to break down in that final scene with Garrison. It's pretty straightforward. I really do wonder about what would have happened next with that scene, though. I can see Maestro and his team attacking Garrison, but I kind of feel like Maestro's focus would have been more on capturing Monika, while Garrison fought off the other MPs. I'm not sure if it would be in his character or not, but I could also see Maestro kind of trying to bargain with Garrison, like, give us Monika and we'll just ignore you, man. I know that you don't want this crap. But Garrison would totally kick their asses, and then he and Monika would have to go on the run, while Knolan would go to the king and warn him about August. Veneer wouldn't believe him because he's arrogant, and so Knolan would be like, we gotta do something about this, and that would force him, Gully, and Calibretto to steal Aramis's gauntlets, and then head out. Then they'd run into Garrison and Monika, who knows about August, and they would team the F up. Despite issue 9 ending, we ain't done yet. I need to flip the comic book over and tell you about the bonus story. Written and drawn, once again, by Adam Warren, we have Ryan Kinnaird on colors and Tomoko on lettering. The story opens 6 years ago, with a teenage Garrison practicing with his sword. A normal sword, just so you know, not the sword, in the woods. He has been studying under Maestro and has been accepted to the Rodritha School of Swordsmanship. A young Monika enters the clearing. Garrison is excited to see her, welcoming her back to the village and telling her of his good news. But she is not happy to hear it. Monika takes off her bulky coat, wearing a shirt that's basically a bra, but it's got some loose cloth on it, like it's trying to be a shirt, but it's clearly not a shirt, and she picks up a sword. Monika then attacks Garrison, ranting about the school and the martial paladins, and when they fight to a draw, she's like, "See? Anyone can swing a sword? Why do you need to go to a school for it, much less Ladritha?" Garrison doesn't answer. He's mostly confused by Monika's attack and her anger, so he's trying to stay focused on his training. The Swordmaster said to focus on your opponent's chest. This keeps most of their body and movements in your vision. As he looks at Monika's chest, though, he's pretty sure that the Masters didn't have her in mind with this technique. She then launches another attack, pressing until Garrison backs into a tree. He trips over a root, gets a small cut on his shoulder, and the pair fall over. Monika pins Garrison to the ground, her sword pressed gently against his neck, and her butt against his crotch. Trying to stay distracted, Garrison asks why she attacked him. It takes a moment of talking, but Monika eventually explains that graduates of Rodritha tend to go on to become martial paladins. The MPs hunt those who break the law, like thieves, like Monika. Garrison says that he would never hunt her down. This isn't enough for Monika, who wants him to promise it. He swears that he will never hunt her down or let them kill her. She smiles, finally satisfied. This is when she notices the slight cut that she gave him. Monika chucks her sword away, horrified, and promises to make it better. Garrison just lays back, his tired eyes shut. "Somebody help me," he pleads. This is a cute story. We now know that Garrison and Monika grew up together, at least to some degree, which explains how they know each other. We've seen that Monika has been a thief since she was a small child, as revealed in the last bonus story, but we don't know anything else about her life. This is also the farthest back that we've gone with Garrison, although we aren't provided with a reason why he wants to be a martial paladin. I mean, I'm guessing glory, because what kid hasn't grabbed a stick or a broom handle and used it like a sword, playing at being a hero? That stuff's dope, man. I get it. I like his general cluelessness in regards to Monika's feelings. She clearly cares for him. I wonder how she felt about him getting married, if this is how she reacted to the news of him going to sword school. Adult Garrison has the emotional depth of a toilet, so seeing that reflected here, consistent over the years, and another writer, is pretty great. Monika's temper and unwillingness to tolerate anyone's bullsh shows through too, and Warren displays a good knowledge of the characters. This story actually brings the levity that the rest of the issue needed so badly in a much more organic way. The sword fighting is well choreographed, it's fast and action-paced, and the pair move like swordsmen. They look right, and they emote well. My wife saw the comic as I was writing it up, and she complained about Garrison's lips. Adam Warren does draw large lips, even on men, and it's just something that I've gotten used to over the years. But Monika's lips often look puffy, while Garrison looks like he's doing the duck face sometimes. I said before, the last time that we saw it, that Adam Warren's artwork is an acquired taste, but I do think that in general it fits the tone of this story well. There are some small bonuses in issue 9 too. Battle Chasers moved from Wildstorm Comics, which was purchased by DC Comics, to Image, allowing Joe Mad to retain ownership of the property. There is a 2-page editorial section from Joe Mad, informing us of this change, as well as other general business. There are 5 pages of Mad's sketches, which are gorgeous, as well as a teased cover for issue 10, which was scheduled for November of 2001. Issue 10 never came out, though. Mad would end up placing the series on hold, and then he left the comics industry for the game industry in 2002. I am left with a bevy of emotions regarding Battle Chasers. I am, of course, amazed by the artwork. Other than Garrison adding a shirt to his costume between issues 7 and 8 while fighting the Borrower, Mad keeps his costumes and his general world design consistent. The series does have a number of coloring errors, both in terms of things being colored wrong and the colors just being uninspired at times, like the Battle Heavy issue 5. Sometimes scenes would happen simultaneously in the story, but then they'll occur at different times in the day due to the lighting and the coloring. While this doesn't distract from the overall narrative, I have never noticed it during my previous reads of this series, it is still a problem, and it really shows the true fault of Battle Chasers, that it's missing a solid creative foundation. This shows in the story elements as well. There's a lot of foundational stuff that I don't know about the world of Battle Chasers. Is Gaia a planet, or a continent, or a country? Are we in the civil or unified or civilized territories? Does everyone live, like, a day away from Capital City? Because our cast go to and leave the place very often. These details are honestly unimportant to the character drama that we have going on, but they are important to how I feel about the world of Battle Chasers. And they leave me mostly confused. These small details are also things that would be easy to lay out within the stories that were being told. Hell, that's why I have so many names for the territory we're in. Sharif and Mad kept introducing new ones. I am glad that they didn't do a 10-page lore drop about the entire history of Battle Chasers. I have read those comics, and it's frustrating because those parts are dry and they're boring, and it typically takes a long time for any of that information to pay off. I like the way that Battle Chasers introduces us to the world along the way, informing us that there was a war that had previously happened using war golems, and then expanding that to include Augustus, and then expanding that to include Knolan's background and Veneer's background. That stuff works well. But it also gives me the feeling that Sharif and Mad don't exactly know what they're introducing us to along the way. This feels a bit made up on the fly, and it would explain why so much of the world is left open and vague. The lack of an overall story structure boggles my mind as well. It's important to note that in 2000 and 2001, the comic book industry was beginning to shift away from its older style of storytelling. Most comics from the 60s to the early 90s were almost standalone issues that maybe had a bigger plotline that would run over 2 or 3 issues, with the character drama and their interactions being the real story holdovers. This made each issue intense and crazy, as the creators could cram in as much as they possibly could. It's why the Avengers could introduce the Vision as a bad guy, have him fight the Avengers, realize that, you know what, he doesn't want to take over the world, then join the Avengers, and then turn on his creator Ultron, all in one issue. That's a 6-month-long storyline these days. But that was the change in the market. The 2000s saw bookstore sales of manga and trade paperbacks go up, so Marvel and DC and CrossGen Comics started to build their books specifically so that they would have an arc. So the typical 3-act structure of storytelling, having a beginning, middle, and end, just got elongated. 2 issues for a beginning, 2-3 issues for a middle, and an issue for an end. And then boom, you start your next arc. For the best writers, this allowed them more room to explore their character interactions, how the people felt about each other, or what was going on in the book, and they could explore routes that would otherwise go untouched. And Battle Chasers feels like it should have a story arc. Almost all fantasy fiction has a very clear narrative. There's a call to action, which takes the hero on a journey, the hero learns and grows along the way, and then they confront the bad guy, who is meant to be some sort of personal flaw made manifest, showing the growth of the hero along their journey. But Battle Chasers doesn't have that. Sebastius really should be our main villain here. He or his forces are the main threat in the Prelude and issues 1, 2, 6, 7, and 8. Out of 9 issues published, Nightwar was the bad guy in 6 of them. That's a perfect story arc. But then it gets interrupted by the Skyhold escapees. Monika's plotline might play into the larger narrative threat of Battle Chasers, namely that of August, but it didn't play into this threat of Battle Chasers. While the story structure is rather, let's face it, non-existent, Sharif and Mad do populate Gaia with vibrant, interesting characters. I want to know more about everyone. And really, that desire is the main driving thought that I'm left with here at the end. Battle Chasers has wound up being a lot better than I remembered it being, but it's also still flawed. Perhaps not as flawed as I thought that it would be, and that's awesome. But yeah, it is flawed nonetheless. So I have one major theory that's left dangling here at the end of Battle Chasers. When I was recapping Sebastius' tale at the start of this issue, I joked that Aramis looked like he was wearing Calibretto. That armor is huge, with the bulky shoulder pads, a rounded chest plate with 2 large red gems on the chest that are surrounded by chitinous material, and he has a neck plate grate thingy. Almost exactly like Calibretto. And that got me thinking. Aramis has gone missing. We don't know for how long he has been missing or why he is missing. All we know is that we left behind his gauntlets and that he left behind his daughter. And then we don't know jack about Calibretto's past. We know that he treasures life, that he dislikes King Veneer, and that he cares for Gully. That's it. And even after being turned off, the inanimate object that is Calibretto comes back to life to defend Gully from the Borrower. So, conspiracy theory time. Is Calibretto the legendary hero Aramis? Now, I don't know how this could have happened. Maybe Aramis' soul was transferred into a war golem when he was dying. Heck, Knolan apologizes to Gully for the loss of her father, so maybe he knows more than we know and he was involved with this. What if the gauntlets were corrupting Aramis' mind so that it had to be moved into a golem, but then something went wrong? And now Aramis' memory files, I guess, are buried so deeply within Calibretto that even it doesn't know about it. Given how unformed the general rules of magic are in the world of Battle Chasers, anything is
No swearing.
possible. I don't know. I looked online to see if Joe Mad had talked about his unused plans for Battle Chasers, but I found nothing to confirm or deny my idea. Mad has actually been super quiet about the unpublished material because he's wanted to come back to it for years. But I did find that there is a character named Aramis in the Warhammer 40k games, so maybe his costume design earlier in issue 9 wasn't quite an accident. Joe Mad's love of gaming is pretty famous, so I could see this character's look being a nod to W40k. Speaking of games, it would be in the form of a video game that Battle Chasers would eventually return. In 2015, Joe Mad and his company, Airship Syndicate, launched a Kickstarter for Battle Chasers Nightwar, a JRPG-style game set in Gaia after the events of the comics. The project did get funded, and in 2017, Nightwar was released. Now, I actually considered doing a breakdown of Nightwar as part of this series, like a nice little wrap-up epilogue thing. I'm an old fan of JRPGs, and I clearly have a lot of love for Battle Chasers, so this would be a natural fit. Plus, just as I was thinking about doing this series, Nintendo put the game on sale in the eShop. Well, I know a sign from God when I see it. But I am no gamer, folks, and as of my writing this episode, I'm only like 9 hours into the game. I only just got all 5 characters in my party, so I'm not terribly deep into it. I must admit, from a story perspective, that I am loving the game so far. The cast does have new costumes, but everyone feels the same. Gully is enthusiastic and bright, Garrison is cold and withdrawn, Calibretto is calm and concerned, while Knolan is all cantankerous attitude. I haven't gotten to any character interactions with Monika yet, other than her escaping from a jail cell by charming her captor, which is certainly appropriate for the character. When you have Calibretto in your party and you finish a battle, birds settle on him, a cute nod to his love for nature in the comics. Most of the character stuff comes when you stay at an inn, though. Whenever you sleep there are small character scenes, and I love those. Garrison leaves the party each night to patrol the land as part of his training, and Gully wants to go along and train as well, but Calibretto doesn't want her to because it is dangerous. After you encounter Lysolons in the game, Gully has a nightmare and then discusses the attack on her home from the prelude with Garrison and Calibretto. And that's so cool! And since you're playing a game, you can switch out the character's weapons, which to me was very important because Garrison and Gully have very specific weapons with very specific story connotations. But after changing out Garrison's sword a few times and adding Knolan to the party, Knolan actually asks Garrison how he's handling the sword. And then Garrison explains that, since the bad guys you're facing are after-cursed artifacts, he's keeping the sword put away. So the game designers have worked in a reason for your changing of the swords. That is so smart, and that's the kind of attention to detail that I love. Also, there are icons for the attacks in battle that are directly from the comics. So when I choose a specific move, I can literally point to the issue that it's from, and that's just another thing that makes my comic-loving geek heart pound. I do think that the game's difficulty is a little uneven, and it is really complex, so that's made my progression very slow. I'm pretty big into just grinding up some levels until I'm too OP for whatever area I'm in before I even set out, but Battle Chasers isn't really built for grinding. I beat the Bravely Default 2 demo a few weeks back, and most of my gameplay time was just me maxing out all of my job levels on all of my characters before I even really continued the plot. That's just how I am. And it kills me that Battle Chasers is fighting me on it. I might still do a breakdown once I've finished the game, but honestly that'll probably be like 8 months from now, so I ain't holding my breath. Until then, assuming that it even happens, we have more comics to talk about. Over a year and a half ago, I examined and broke down Marvel's Heroes Reborn books, with the intent of discussing the one-shots that were released in 2000. However, when I started to research those books, I discovered that they were less of a continuation of the OG Heroes Reborn stuff, and they were more of a tie-in to Chris Claremont's run on Fantastic Four Volume 3. And that sounded like a challenge. I have since assembled a collection of that volume, going from the title's launch to the end of Claremont's run. It is approximately 43 issues total, including an annual, the Heroes Reborn one-shots, a miniseries, and one graphic novel. I don't plan to run the entire series at once, as we would be competing with Secret Six in terms of overall series length, and I don't know if I want to bury myself in one series for like 5 months straight, to be honest. I haven't settled on when I'm going to stop. I'm thinking about like every 12 issues I'll take a break, and then we'll run another series or a couple small mini-series, and then we'll bounce back to the Fantastic Four. I'm not 100% sold on that yet, and I don't know what those in-between books will be, but we'll see. I'll figure it out. Join me next week as I begin to break down the Fantastic Four, episode 12.1, No Place Like Home.
Everyone, there are a million podcasts vying for your time and attention, and I'd like to thank you for listening to mine. If you would like to get in touch with me, to share a concern, request a series, compliment me, berate me, whatever you like, send me an email at cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Otherwise, thanks for listening.